Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Range of Reality, the podcast where personal safety meets real-world strategy. I'm Jody Salerno, firearms instructor, tactical trainer, coach, safety strategist, and founder of one of Pennsylvania's premier shooting and defensive academies. Hesitation can cost you everything. Each week, we break down real-life threats, current events, and survivor stories to expose the harsh truths of violence and how to beat the odds. From situational awareness to firearms and non-lethal defense, this podcast gives you the mindset, training, and tools to stay ready when it matters most. I want to start today with a question, and I don't want you to just skim past it. I want you to actually answer it in your head. When's the last time you did something hard on purpose? Not something hard that happened to you, a diagnosis, a layoff, a fight you didn't start. I mean something hard you choose, a workout you didn't want to do, a conversation you've been avoiding for months, getting up before your alarm instead of hitting snooze for the third time, walking into a room where you were the least experienced person there. If you had to sit and think about that for more than a few seconds, I want you to notice that, not judge it, just notice it. Because that's exactly what today's episode is about. And I promise you, by the end of this one, you're going to look at your own life a little differently. It doesn't matter if you're a woman who's never touched a firearm in your life, or a guy who thinks he's already squared away because he's got a gun in the nightstand. This one's for both of you. You know my story, or maybe you're new here. So let me tell it to you. I walked into a gun range for the first time at 50 years old. 50, not 25, not somebody's tough tomboy childhood story where she grew up hunting with her dad. 50, freshly out of a long marriage, completely starting over, figuring out who I even was outside of a life that had defined me for decades. My son is the one who got me there. He looked at me, his mother, a grown woman who had already run multiple businesses, who had already survived plenty. And he basically said, Mom, you need to learn how to protect yourself. You need to know how to do this. And he wasn't wrong. But here's what's wild to me looking back. I didn't think I needed it. I thought I was fine. My life looked fine. I had a roof over my head, food in the fridge. By every measure society hands you, I was comfortable. And comfortable felt like safe. It wasn't. It was just quiet. There's a difference. And it took me getting into this work to understand it. Comfort tells you a story. It says, see, nothing's wrong. You don't need to think about this. And that story is one of the most dangerous stories a person can believe because it's not built on anything real. It's just the absence of a recent problem. 11 years and over 22,000 students later, here's what I can tell you about total certainty. The people who need this training most aren't usually the ones who've already had something terrible happen to them. They're the ones who have been comfortable for so long that paying attention to their own surroundings has quietly slipped down the priority list. And that includes plenty of men, by the way. Big, strong guys who've never once considered that their size and confidence might be exactly what's keeping them from clocking a real threat until it's already on top of them. I read something a while back that put language to a feeling I'd had for years running this business. And I want to break it down plainly because I think it explains half of what walks through my door. We are living in the most physically comfortable era in human history. Full stop. Most of us reading or listening aren't wondering where our next meal's coming from. We're not sleeping outside, and nobody's storming our house tonight, statistically speaking. And that's good. I'm not here telling you to romanticize hardship for its own sake. But here's the catch nobody talks about. Human beings were not built for zero friction. For nearly all of human history, staying alive took effort. It required you to stay alert. It required you to tolerate discomfort as a completely normal part of existing. It wasn't a choice on a random Tuesday. You built capability because you had no other option. Take that pressure away completely and something strange happens. The threats don't vanish. They just change costume. They stop being external and start being internal. Anxiety that has no clear source. A flat, low hum of something's off, even though nothing specific is wrong. A drive that used to be there and just isn't anymore. You can't quite explain why you don't feel like doing much of anything, even things you used to care about. I lived a version of exactly that myself before I ever picked up a firearm. A life that looked completely fine on paper, and a woman inside who had quietly stopped paying attention to herself. Men aren't exempt from this either. I hear it from the husbands who drop their wives off for my classes. I don't need this. I'm fine. I grew up around guns. And then you scratch the surface a little and you find a guy who hasn't done anything that scared him in 15 years. Comfort doesn't care what's between your legs. It'll come for anybody who lets it. Now let's stack something else on top of that. The phone sitting in your pocket right now. We have instant, unlimited access to reward. Endless scrolling, notifications lighting up all day. Something sweet whenever we want it. No effort required. Entertainment on demand. 24 hours a day. Here's what that does to you. And this isn't just some vague self-help idea. This is how your brain actually works. That reward chemical everybody talks about isn't really about feeling good in the moment. That's not its real job. Its real job is drive. It's the thing that pushes you to actually get up and act, to build something, to train, to get better at something hard. When reward keeps showing up without any effort attached to it, you flood that system and wear it out. And when you wear it out, here's exactly what happens. You become less motivated, less resilient, less prepared. Not because you're weak, because you've spent your drive on things that never asked anything of you in return. Let me give you a real world version of this because I see it. I'll have a student working hard to learn something brand new on the range, really focused, really in it. And the second we call a break, that same person is right back on their phone scrolling. That's the whiplash. A few moments of real earned effort, then straight back into the easiest, lowest effort input available. No wonder building real capability feels so much harder than it used to. We've trained our brains to expect everything to come easy. This is exactly why situational awareness is disappearing in this country. Not because people can't do it. I promise you, every single student who's walked through my doors is fully capable of it. It's because they're being distracted right out of it. I talk to women constantly who tell me some version of, I didn't even notice him until he was right next to my car. And it's not because they're careless people. It's because their attention has been trained day after day, notification after notification, to live somewhere else, in a screen, in noise, in the next quick hit. Here's something I think about when it comes to how people lose their edge in this country. There's an old comparison a couple of writers made a long time ago. George Orwell pictured a future where people's freedom got stripped away from the outside. Some outside force cracking down hard enough that everybody would feel it and have to fight back. Aldous Huxley pictured something almost the opposite. He thought people wouldn't need to be cracked down on at all. He figured they'd give up their edge on their own, willingly, because life would be made so easy and so pleasant that fighting to stay sharp would feel completely unnecessary. Nobody has to force you to get soft if getting soft feels this good. For most of us, if we're honest, it's the Huxley version every time. Nobody's forcing our hand. We're doing it to ourselves. One convenient, distracted day at a time. One more scroll, one more, I'll deal with that later. And here's the part that should really land for you. This isn't just about crime or self-defense or a stranger in the parking lot. This is your marriage, your parenting, your health. How many people do you know who are quietly, comfortably drifting through a relationship or a life that's slowly falling apart simply because fixing it would require some discomfort? And discomfort is the one thing we've all silently agreed to avoid at any cost. And here's the heart of the whole episode. Most people think about safety purely in terms of what's out there. The stranger, the break-in, the guy in the parking lot. And yes, I train people for exactly that every single day. That's literally my job. But the threat that hurts more people than almost anything else is internal. It's complacency. It's the quiet, unspoken belief that because nothing bad has happened yet, nothing bad is ever going to. That mindset is dangerous because violence and crisis don't come out of nowhere. They follow a pattern. There are signs beforehand every single time. The people who get caught off guard usually aren't unlucky. They're unaware. And comfort is exactly what builds that blind spot. One easy, unremarkable day at a time. So let me give you a couple of patterns I see over and over. The woman who gets an uneasy feeling about a guy at a bar or on a date and talks herself out of it because she doesn't want to seem rude. That instinct she overrode, that was her awareness working perfectly. She just wasn't in the habit of trusting it, because trusting it would have meant an uncomfortable moment. And we've trained ourselves out of tolerating uncomfortable moments. The husband and father who's confident he could handle it if something happened at his house at 2 a.m., but has never once actually walked through what that would look like, where the flashlight is, where the family gathers, what he says out loud to his kids so they don't panic. Confidence without preparation isn't readiness. It's just a story you tell yourself so you don't have to do the harder work of actually training for it. Or the business owner who notices an employee's behavior escalating for months, feels that gut check every single time and does nothing because confronting it would be awkward. It would be uncomfortable. It might make things weird in the office. I've watched that pattern play out in real workplaces. It never resolves itself. It only gets addressed early or it gets addressed after something happens. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Awareness isn't paranoia. Paranoia is exhausting and it isn't sustainable. And frankly, it isn't attractive to live in. Awareness is a skill. And exactly like every physical skill I teach on my range, it atrophies the moment you stop using it. You don't get to coast on awareness you built once years ago. It's a muscle, not a certificate that you got after you completed a class. Let's talk about what you actually do with all of this. You do not need to blow up your comfortable life. I'm not telling you to go live off grid in the woods, but what I am telling you is this. You need to reintroduce friction into your life on purpose in small, manageable, deliberate doses before life forces a much bigger dose on you in a moment you don't get to pick. It comes down to a handful of things. Do hard things, train your body, challenge your mind, and limit the inputs that ask nothing of you in return. That's it. That's the whole formula. It's not complicated. It's just not comfortable, which is exactly why most people never do it. And here's what that looks like in real life. Do one hard physical thing on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be a marathon or a CrossFit competition. It can be a workout you genuinely don't want to do at an hour you'd rather sleep through. It builds the exact same muscle, literally and figuratively, that you'll need in a real crisis moment when your body has to perform while your brain is screaming at you to freeze. Practice noticing on purpose as a habit. Put the phone down when you walk into a store, a parking lot, a gas station at night. Look at the exits. Look at the people. Notice who's watching you back. Make this a boring everyday habit rather than a panic response you only remember after something scary already happened. I tell my students, check the room the same way you'd check your mirrors in the car, automatically, consistently, and without drama. Get honest about your inputs. I'm not telling you to throw your phone in a lake. I'm telling you to be honest with yourself about how much of your day is cheap, effortless stimulation versus real earned effort. Just noticing that ratio changes people. I've watched it happen with my own students. Go be a beginner at something. Take a class. Learn a skill you don't already have. Put yourself in a room where you don't know what you're doing yet. That discomfort of being new, of not having the answer right away, that's precisely the muscle we're talking about. It's also, not coincidentally, exactly what I watch happen every single week in my own classes. Someone who's never held a firearm before, or someone who has never taken a hand-to-hand self-defense class, working through it for the first time and getting a little stronger and a little steadier with every single rep. Someone else who thought they already knew everything, finding out on the range or on the mat that they had habits nobody had ever corrected. That discomfort right there is the whole point. And every single person who pushes through it walks out standing a little taller than when they walked in. And have the uncomfortable conversation with your spouse, with your teenager, with the employee whose behavior has been bothering you for months, with yourself about the thing you've been avoiding. Every one of those conversations is a small, controlled dose of exactly the discomfort we're talking about. You know this old story of the ant and the grasshopper? All summer long, the ant is out there working, hauling food back to the nest in the heat while everybody else is enjoying the season. And the grasshopper is off to the side watching this, thinking the ant is out of his mind. It's beautiful out. Nothing bad is happening. Why would I work this hard for a problem that doesn't even exist yet? So the grasshopper spends his summer singing, relaxing, enjoying very easy, comfortable days as it comes, and honestly, having a great time doing it. Then the winter hits, and it hits the way winter always hits. Not gradually, not gently, just suddenly. There's no food anywhere. And it's freezing, and there's no more warning left to give. The ant is fine. He's got a full store built up from months of unglamorous, unremarkable effort nobody was clapping for. The grasshopper has nothing. All that comfort, all those easy summer days, and when the moment actually came that required him to be ready, he wasn't. That's the whole story. And it's not really about bugs. It's about the fact that readiness is invisible until the exact moment that you need it. And by then, it's too late to go build it. The ant wasn't smarter than the grasshopper. He just did the unglamorous work on the ordinary days when nothing was demanding it of him yet. That's the same principle behind everything we've talked about today. You either do the work now while things are calm and nothing's forcing your hand, or you pay for it later, usually at a much steeper cost, at the worst possible moment with no time left to prepare. Readiness is never built in the moment of crisis. Nobody magically rises to the occasion who hasn't already built the capacity for it long before the occasion showed up. You don't rise to the moment. You fall to the level of what you've actually trained. And this isn't just a woman's issue. I get a lot of guys who come into my range because their wife or their girlfriend signed up for a class and they figure they'll tag along and humor her. And more often than not, I watch something shift in them by the end of the day because a lot of men have been walking around with an assumption that their size or their gender or the fact that they grew up around this stuff means they're already prepared. That assumption is its own form of comfort. It's just wearing a different outfit. Being bigger doesn't mean you're more aware. Owning a gun you never train with doesn't mean you're ready to use it under stress. Confidence built on assumption instead of on actual repetition is one of the most dangerous forms of comfort there is because it doesn't even feel like comfort. It feels like strength. right up until the moment it gets tested and it isn't there. So let me leave you with this because it really is the whole message today. Comfort is not your enemy. I am not anti-comfort. I enjoy it a lot. Camping with my family, decorating cakes, playing with my grandkids, none of that makes me soft. But comfort left completely unchecked, comfort you never once pushed back against, quietly becomes a liability. It doesn't announce itself. It just accumulates day after ordinary day until one day you need something you never built. The people who walk out of my range able to handle themselves under real pressure aren't the ones who got lucky. They're the ones who chose on some perfectly ordinary Tuesday to do the slightly uncomfortable thing instead of the easy thing. And then they kept choosing it over and over, long before they ever needed it. So here's my question again, the one I opened with. When's the last time you did something hard on purpose? If it's been a while, that's not a failure on your part. That's just information. That's your actual starting point, right where you are. Pick one thing this week, just one, and do it on purpose. One rep of discomfort. That's it. That's exactly how every single one of my 22,000 students started too. Every one of them. So that's it for today, my friend. Thanks for spending this time with me today on Range of Reality. If you found this episode helpful, please hit subscribe so you never miss a show and share it with someone who needs this message. The more we spread awareness, the more lives we protect. And I'd love to hear from you too. If you've ever come across a situation that made you uncomfortable, or if you have a story about how you handled it, DM me, please. Your experience could be the encouragement someone else needs. And don't forget, I put together a free safety checklist you can grab right now at jodysalerno.com. It's a simple tool you can use today to protect yourself and your loved ones. Until next time, stay aware, stay empowered, and keep living a life worth protecting.